Cloth kept clean, that was always folded. But one day a girl emerged. A normal boy wonders if the girl is a fairy, a yokai, or maybe a ghost. High school student Kazuya Kagami narrates his first encounter with Kiriha, remarking how her scent feels comforting. Tsukumogami is an object that receives enormous feelings after many years, taking shape and gaining a soul. Earlier during the day, Kazuya dreams of him begging a girl not to leave him, waking up to find himself grabbing Chisato Chikaishi's chest in class. Chisato beats Kazuya as his friends Shiru Shiramin and Osamu Osanai watch, saying how he's obtaining a passionate scolding from the class representative. Some of them would pay for that type of attention. After being lectured by Chisato, Kazuya heads up to the roof of the school to contemplate about his dream and his mother's obi, with his mother dying when he was still young. With him unable to remember what she looks like, he keeps this cloth close to him, smelling of cherry blossoms. After finishing, Kazuya prepares to leave. He finds a wig on the floor and attempts to avoid it, but is grabbed by the wig. Meanwhile, Chisato wonders about Kazuya's whereabouts, with her waiting to walk home with him. Kazuya is saved from the wig by an unknown force, and Kazuya hears a voice in his head helping him. The wig tackles Kazuya off the roof of the building. Kazuya falls, but is saved by a blue-haired girl. She created a cushion and manifested herself in human form. This girl is Kiriha. She gives Kazuya a familiar greeting, but Kazuya has no recollection of her. Kiriha is angered that he doesn't remember her, headbutting him. The amasogi's host reveals itself and continues their attack on Kazuya. Kiriha protects him, calling Kazuya her possession, telling him not to complain. Kazuya doesn't like the idea, so Kiriha throws him toward the demon. After Kazuya agrees to be her servant, she saves him. Kiriha tells the host to leave, but the human doesn't listen. After hurting the cloth, Kiriha loses her patience and is about to destroy the both of them. Kazuya calls for her to stop, so she destroys the amasogi. As Kazuya tends to the unconscious host, Kiriha explains the concept of amasogi, being the quick manifestation of enormous desire, with the human being in love with him. Kazuya blushes at the thought of a girl liking him, but Kiriha tells him the host is a male cross-dressing as a female. Kiriha disappears to the rooftops as a teacher comes by to check on the two. Kazuya returns home and greets his sister before going upstairs to his room. Kazuya thinks about what has happened and takes a nap. Kazuya awakes, having had another nightmare. To his surprise, he finds Kiriha sleeping with him under his sheets and screams. Kasumi rushes upstairs to check on Kazuya, who quickly rolls Kiriha up in his blanket and hides her behind his bed. Kasumi reaches Kazuya's room, and Kazuya insists that nothing happened, prompting his sister to leave. Kiriha punishes Kazuya for tossing her around and introduces herself to Kazuya as his master. Kazuya feels that since her form comes from an object that belonged to him, he should be the master. But this is denied. Kiriha has Kazuya go out to buy her food. Kazuya returns with sweets. Kiriha demands pudding, so he makes 2 trips to buy pudding. Kiriha stays in his room as Kazuya goes downstairs to eat dinner with his sister. While they eat, Kiriha entertains herself with TV and video games. Making loud noises attracts their attention, which Kazuya attempts to ward Kasumi from. After dinner, Kazuya enters the bath to find Kiriha bathing. He thinks about how this could go, but Kiriha doesn't mind this. Kiriha has him wash her back, with the two bathing together. She reminds him that they used to do this all the time, remarking how big he's gotten, wanting to see its final form. After bathing, the two share Kazuya's bed as they sleep. Kazuya doesn't think this is appropriate, but is reminded how he did this with her obi form, so he agrees, being unable to sleep for most of the night. Kokuyu observes the curse in the city and receives instruction from a voice on how to act on it. The next morning, Kiriha wakes up with the two sleeping in. She attempts to wake Kazuya Kagami up to no avail. Kazuya calls Kiriha weird in his sleep, which makes her begin to stomp on his balls. Kazuya rushes to class and hopes he just barely makes it, but unfortunately, he's told he is late by his teacher. Chisato violently chastises Kazuya for being late as Shiru and Osamu watch. Kazuya blames Kiriha for him being late to school. Earlier that morning, after being woken by Kiriha, Kazuya finds that he was running late because she destroyed his alarm clock. Kazuya rushed out to school, but Kiriha insisted on going with him. Kiriha hasn't been left behind before and won't let him leave. Kazuya tricks Kiriha into going into her obi form, believing Kazuya would carry her that way, but Kazuya leaves her tied up in a box and goes to school by himself. While having lunch with Shiru and Osamu, Kazuya laughs to himself during lunch for being able to trick Kiriha. Shiru and Osamu talk about rumors of a ghost sighting, and Shiru fantasizes about using the opportunity to get close to a girl. Chisato smacks them all on the head as punishment for Shiru's thoughts, reminding them of their work due. Kazuya realizes he has not completed his work and begs Osamu for help, but is stopped by Chisato, who drags him to the library to oversee him personally. Kazuya works with Chisato in the library, and they reminisce about when they studied together as children. Chisato offers to go over to Kazuya's house to help him study, but Kazuya declines, not wanting Chisato to encounter Kiriha. Kazuya finishes up his work and goes to take a book out while Chisato leaves. Chisato finds herself unable to open the library door to leave, with all the exits locked. Kiriha is listening in on them. Kiriha laughs, thinking this is his punishment for leaving her, with Chisato and Kazuya realizing she went commando. Kazuya tackles her, vowing to return after a talk. Kiriha asks if he's feeling amorous this morning, with a smug grin. She then beats his face to a pulp, doing it again when he mistakes her for a yokai, explaining she is given life after several years of constant use, while an amasogi is from an intense emotion. Kazuya and introduces herself to Chisato, explaining the situation to her as well. Kiriha gives the both of them netsuke to detect amasogi. The group search for the amasogi, but find that the netsuke are responding to numerous books within the library. Kiriha attempts to force her way out with her spiral weave. The area transforms into a large hall consisting entirely of books, revealing the entire library to be the amasogi. Kiriha is attacked by books, and a large book golem appears and begins to chase them. Kiriha realizes that Chisato is the amasogi's host and has Kazuya recount their previous actions in the library. Realizing Kazuya's rejection of Chisato's study offer to be the trigger for the amasogi, Kazuya accepts Chisato's offer, and the library returns to normal. Outside the library, Kokuyu observes the entire event transpire. Chisato arrives at house to study, opening his room to find him sleeping with Kiriha. Chisato hits Kazuya and reminds him that she came to help him study. Kazuya wonders why Chisato is here, with him forgetting he agreed to study with her, with Kiriha breaking his alarm clock again. Chisato gives pudding to Kiriha and apologizes for creating an amasogi. Kiriha tells Chisato not to blame herself and explains curse to them. Kiriha blames Kukuri for not managing the curse. Shiru Shiramin is stopped by Kokuyu on the streets and asked about Kazuya Kagami. Shiru offers to bring Kokuyu to Kazuya for a price, with him only helping because of her large chest. A flashback scene depicts Kukuri with Kiriha sealing Kazuya's memories at the Hakusan Shrine. Kiriha agrees to having Kazuya's memories sealed despite the risks it poses to herself. Kazuaki Kagami checks on his son before he heads out, telling Kazuya he will be home early for dinner. While walking to school, Kiriha comments on Kazuaki's doting nature. At school, Shiru greets Kazuya with a dropkick, blaming him for his earlier troubles. A flashback of the day before explains Shiru bringing Kokuyu to a family restaurant to eat and offering to pay for the food. Shiru finds her extremely weird, but thinks her appearance is worth it. Kokuyu orders an abundance of food for herself and finishes it all as the employees and customers cheer her on. Kokuyu leaves with a parting gift from the restaurant while Shiru is forced to stay and pay the bill. In the present, Shiru tells Kazuya that he lost all his money and is now in debt to Osamu. Kazuya has no idea of who the woman looking for him could be. Atop the school building, Kokuyu listens to them and remembers her conversation with Kukuri from earlier. Kukuri berates Kokuyu for losing track of her objective. Kokuyu explains the food was much better than what she usually eats at the shrine, blaming the god that all she has to eat is grasshoppers and bugs, casually blaming the shrine's lack of resources and recognition. Kukuri tells Kokuyu to hurry to bring Kazuya to her without making a commotion, and to not bring Kiriha along. In the present, Kokuyu's stomach growls. Shiru challenges Kazuya to arm wrestling for Kazuya's lunch, which is prepared by his older sister, with Kazuya not understanding Shiru's attraction to his sister. Kukuri comments on arm wrestling being a pastime of hers. The other classmates begin to scream as they find that their lunches are gone. Kazuya confronts Kiriha about the missing lunches and is hit in the face. Chisato mentions the possibility of being an amasogi, but Kazuya believes it to be a thief. Kokuyu bursts through the classroom door, with stolen lunches in hand and mouth, demanding Kazuya's whereabouts. Shiru recognizes Kokuyu from earlier, but Kokuyu does not remember him. Shiru demands that Kokuyu pay him back or compensate by allowing him to rub her breasts. Kokuyu does not have money but accepts the latter, shocking Shiro. But before he can, Chisato knocks Shiru down, only allowing him a brief touch of Kokuyu's breasts. Kokuyu confronts Kazuya and tells him to follow her. Kiriha intervenes and the two argue. The two decide to settle things via arm wrestling in order to decide if Kiriha is allowed to come along. Atop the school roof, Kiriha and Kokuyu face off in gym uniforms, Suzura Temple-style arm wrestling, with this being Shiru's idea. The rules are explained with them, unable to use one arm, and must land a deceive blow with the other. It's evenly matched, but Kiriha is victorious. A teacher arrives to see what they are doing, but Kiriha, Kazuya, Kokuyu, and Chisato are gone, leaving the rest of the student behind. The group walks up to the Hakusan Shrine, Kazuya remembering the path to be familiar, despite having no memories of venturing there. At the shrine, the group meets with Kukuri. A flashback depicts Kanaka Kagami and Kiriha battling with a turtle amasogi. Kokuyu introduces the group to Kukuri. Kiriha explains that she was able to beat Kokuyu at arm wrestling and won the right to come with them. Kukuri and Kiriha briefly argue about their current standings in their arm wrestling competition before being told by Kazuya to stop. Kiriha confront Kukuri in quiet about the seal on Kazuya's memories weakening. Kiriha suggests that she reapply the seal immediately, but Kukuri refuses, offering up an alternate solution. Kukuri tells Kazuya that he will become the region's exorcist, but Kiriha rejects the idea. Kukuri tells Kazuya that he is responsible for recent occurrences of amasogi. Kiriha tries to take Kazuya and run away, but they are locked in by a barrier. Kokuyu carries Chisato into the air, and Kukuri prepare to battle Kiriha and Kazuya. Kiriha tries to fly her and Kazuya away. Kiriha is knocked down and Kukuri uses Minazuchi, engulfing them in a large mass water. Kukuri uses Minazuchi on Kiriha and Kazuya, while Kokuyu and Chisato Chikaishi watch from a safe distance. Kiriha protects herself, and Kazuya from the attack was as weakened and shrunk. Kukuri launches another attack, and Kiriha is unable to protect the both of them. Kazuya receives a dream of his mother giving him advice on what to do, telling him to protect Kiriha. Kazuya awakens to find Kiriha giving him air through mouth to mouth. The two resurface and Kazuya commands Kiriha using her true name in order to fight. Kukuri launches various attacks as Kazuya finds it difficult to get a grasp on Kiriha's abilities. Kukuri uses Suzuro Mizuchi, which Kazuya is able to counter using a watershed weave. Kazuya goes in to finish with a spiral weave, which manages to destroy Kukuri's ice barrier. After the barrier is destroyed, Kazuya finds Kiriha in the hands of Kukuri with an ice spear up to her neck. Kazuya complies with Kukuri's demands and agrees to become an exorcist. The battle comes to a conclusion and Kukuri's akuju falls off, causing her to change into a childlike state. Kiriha mocks and bullies Kukuri's in her new form. Kukuri finishes explaining the battle was simply a ruse to get Kazuya to Kiriha and become an exorcist. Kiriha wildly swing Kukuri around in anger. Kazuya, Kiriha, and Chisato leave the shrine with Chisato later parting ways as Kazuya carries Kiriha home. Kiriha has a flashback to just before they left the shrine about a private conversation she had with Kukuri about Kazuya. Kukuri and Kokuyu sit and converse in their ruined shrine. At home, Kazuya observes Kiriha's shrunken state. Kazuya checks if Kiriha is injured and Kiriha begins to tease him. The two take baths, and Kiriha remembers a past conversation she had with Kanaka as she passes out from overheating in the bath. Kazuya has Kiriha rest on his bed as he fans her. Kiriha asks for pudding as Kazuya notices the need to get more fitting clothes for Kiriha. Kazuya asks his sister for clothes of when she was a child, which Kasumi misinterprets as part of Kazuya's developing sexual interest. Kazuya leaves before Kasumi can respond. Kazuya calls Chisato about clothes, but Chisato tells Kazuya she would be unable to get them to him immediately. Kazuya stares at the phone thinking about who to contact. Kazuya meets up with Osamu Osanai, who provides him with the needed clothes. Osamu misinterprets Kazuya's need for the clothes as a sexual fetish, but states he will inquire, but Kazuya denies it. Kazuya returns to his room with the clothes and pudding he bought along the way. Kiriha checks the clothes and the two find that they are of a sexual nature. Kiriha teases Kazuya about wearing the clothes if he wants her, to which Kazuya rejects. The next day at school, Osamu confronts Kazuya about the clothes, asking if he had fun as Kazuya attempts to clear up the misunderstanding.
Kiriha tells Kazuya that they will begin his training. While training, Kiriha grows frustrated of Kazuya's physical ineptitude and lack of skill, failing to perform basic weaves. As they bath, Kiriha explains the weaknesses and mortality of Tsugumomo. Kukuri finds that she and Kokuyu lack the funds to have their shrine repaired. The carpentry tsukumogami are unable to work without pay, but leave some cloth to cover the holes. At Kazuya's home, Kazuya fails to weave properly, prompting Kiriha to punish him and demonstrate the correct method. At the Hakusan shrine, Kukuri fails to package a rose correctly, prompting to Kokuyu to demonstrate properly. At Kazuya's home, Kazuya calls Kiriha out for cheating at Jenga. Back at the Hakusan shrine, Kukuri and Kokuyu struggle to keep their home together as it collapses in on them. Back at Kazuya's home, the Jenga tower falls over and Kiriha get the feeling something good has happened. Kukuri and Kokuyu stand outside in the rain, lamenting their destroyed home while Kokuyu decides their next home. Kiriha and Kazuya train as Chisato. Kukuri and Kokuyu watch. Kukuri wonders why they are performing such basic training, to which Kiriha explains that Kazuya's previous victory and display of skill was merely a fluke. Kukuri panics, regretting her decision, and heads to their new home seeing there is nothing they can do about it. The group follows Kukuri and Kokuyu to their new home to find them residing in a playground as Kiriha laughs. Kukui reads out the curse forecast and tells them that there should be no curse-related problems. Nakajima snicker while drawing in a dark room. Kazuya meets with the student council president, Tadataka Tadata, who introduces himself as the owner of the previous hair amasogi. Tadata informs them of a problem likely caused by an amasogi. On the way to the location of the problem, they run into Osamu. They find the club room is missing and Kiriha checks for the presence of an amasogi using her Hazakura, which responds. Back at Kukuri's new shrine, Kokuyu tells Kukuri that their curse forecast is 2 months out of date. The group head back to find themselves stopped by a wall. Nakajima introduces himself, demanding that Tadata officialize the tabletop RPG club, which Tadata refuses. Nakajima summons a minotaur using his sketchbook amasogi and the group runs away. The group find themselves trapped by a wall and head into the classroom, which leads to a dead end. Kiriha tells Kazuya they need to face the monster, and Kazuya realizes the monster is drawing, meaning it can be erased. Nakajima and the minotaur enter the room where the minotaur is sprayed with water by Osamu and Tadata to no effect. Kazuya uses the distraction to use a fire extinguisher on the minotaur, erasing its arm. The group retreats back into the hallway and erase the wall that blocked them, only to find another wall behind it and their fire extinguisher has run out. Nakajima corners them, having shoddily redrawn the minotaur's arm. Kazuya uses Kiriha and makes a rush to a nearby fire extinguisher, grabbing it and erasing the monster entirely. Nakajima is confronted, and Osamu informed about the amasogi. Kiriha gives Nakajima the sketchbook for him to destroy in order to avoid curse backlash. Nakajima destroys the book, but reveals he had a piece of paper hidden, summoning another minotaur. Osamu reveals that he had switched their sketchbooks, and he still is the amasogi. Osamu summons a flare dragon and destroys Nakajima's minotaur. The fire from the dragon causes the fire alarm to go off. After changing clothes, Osamu explains that Nakajima used tracing for his drawing. Osamu calls Nakajima's use of the amasogi a waste, drawing and summoning an adult version of Kiriha in lingerie to demonstrate its potential. The adult Kiriha begins sadistically stomping on Kazuya's crotch and Nakajima destroys his amasogi.